Bassem, thanks so much for making some time today to
Thank you.
speak with us.
Thank you so much.
You're one of the leading political satirists in the world.
Oh, come on. Just in my part of the world.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that that's true, but Jon Stewart describes you as that he is the Bassem Youssef of America, and other people would say you're the...
He's too humble. He's too humble, and he's one of the most genuine, most amazing person I've ever seen in my life.
Tell us about your TV show, Albanameg.
Oh, it's that like an open-ended question.
Yeah.
Well, once upon a time, we had an Arab Spring, and then we had, the media was just ridiculous. And I made like these digital short videos on the internet, and it caught fire. I didn't expect it to catch fire, and suddenly I have TV deals, and suddenly like my whole life turned around, and it became popular. People watch it, and political satire became a genre of its own.
Why
and then it stopped.
Well, firstly, why did it catch fire? Like, what was it about you? Why did people want to...
I think we did something that was needed by the people. People needed something that is more than just a distraction, more than just like empty comedy, empty entertainment. We offered entertainment, we offered comedy, but also with a strong message. And I think people appreciated that and followed what we offered on the show.
And how important do you think your show was and your content in really helping to mobilize the people of Egypt around the Arab Spring?
Well, a lot of people put a lot of importance on satire and comedy. I say this, maybe I said this like in 500 interviews so far, but I say that the importance of satire and comedy is that it just brings more people to the table, more people to be aware of what's happening in the social and political arena. People that might not be tempted to be involved in that discussion if comedy was not involved. So this is what we do. We just bring more people to the discussion, but we don't change. We do not mobilize. This is a misconception that's being given, or a bigger role that's given to a comedian and political satirist. We're not political leaders, and we're not freedom fighters.
But you are important in shaping the narrative and, as you say, engaging people. I mean, social movements don't happen without engagement, without people finding a way to stand up.
I do engage the people, but whatever change would happen will be up to the people. I don't tell them what to do. I tell them, this is what's happening and this is my own personal opinion. But I never in my show ask people to do something or even invited them to do something. I criticize. And this is what like a normal citizen would do. The only difference is that I have a show, but it's what an average person would always do.
And do you think people would have engaged with your content as much if you were telling them what to do?
I think I don't have the right to tell people what to do, and because now you become an activist and you become a leader and you become a demagogue, and who am I to tell people what to do? I just tell them, I think that's ridiculous and that's funny and that's stupid.
Yep.
And it's not my position to tell them what they should do. I'm not a political analyst. I'm not a social worker. I'm a guy who just makes jokes about current events, and it's just up to the people to say, well, that's wrong, that we have to change.
One of the big things we hear about the Arab Spring is the importance of the internet. How important was that, do you think, and how does that reflect on your show and the audiences you were able to reach?
Well, if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have been there in the first place. If it wasn't the internet, you might not have even heard about me, and I wouldn't be invited to this beautiful, sunny Australia. Yeah. No, but I think internet is amazing. But internet is not just about like making a political show. The internet allows young people to see what's happening in the world, to combat the usual forms of propaganda that used to control their parents. I mean, I always say the young people of today could not be controlled with the same obsolete 1950s and 60s ways of propaganda. It's a generational issue. It's a different era, it's a different time, and many of the Arab regimes are still living in these 1950s and 60s. And this is why the internet is important, not just because of a political satire show. It's the general like mood of awareness and knowledge that it's giving people.
And what would be your advice to GetUp members, to me as I'm the new guy on the job. I've been in the role of leading the GetUp movement only for a few months. What would be your advice to people seeking to use the internet to increase engagement in politics, whether that be through satire or simply awareness raising or asking people to take political actions?
Well, the difference between the internet and mainstream media is that people always have the choice, and flipping or changing a channel is one click away. Mm. I am much older, so I remember sitting in front of the television, sitting on the same channel, and not even changing the channel after maybe 45 minutes or maybe a couple of hours. But now the internet is to make content that's engaging to the youth from the first 10 seconds. Because if you not engage in the first 10 seconds, they will flip away. Mm. That's the greatest challenge. How to make content that is, because you can make a content about people falling down or cats and dogs that will generate 200 million views, but it has absolutely no message. Mm. But how to make something that is deep, substantial, and at the same time engaging? That's very difficult. So that's why you have to add maybe some theatrics and some stuff at the beginning to make them engage all through. So it's engage them in the beginning and engage them all through. That's the most important thing. That is a challenge that is not in television. Mm. Television is just we just paid and we're gonna be here for the next half hour. It doesn't matter if we suck. Mm. Yeah.
Well, you face a particularly difficult task with that in Egypt, where you had a dictatorship for 30 years, and then we had a new president come in, and I think on the first day your show was pulled. Can you talk about...
Oh, it's nonsense. We are the most democratic country in the world.
Can you talk about what it takes to stand up to political authority, to political power, and the importance of that for your voice or for the voice of satire?
Well, at the end of the day, I think in general, authoritarian regimes, whether religious or military or dogmatic, whatever, they are afraid of comedy because it takes away what they most importantly depend on. It's the fear. It's the halo of sanctity. They are the infallibility. So when you make fun of that, you take away that so-called respect or fear or whatever. And this is why satire and comedy is their greatest enemies. I mean, we try to do our job as within limit. At the end of the day, if it becomes too dangerous, or become too uncomfortable, or become too disruptive for us, we can't. I mean, we're not freedom fighters at the end of the day. We're not someone who go out there and change people. It's up to the people to change or not. So there's limits of what we can do, basically.
Yeah, okay. In Australia, we've seen a rise recently, as I think has been reflected in a few other Western societies, of racism, and sometimes it's politically engaged and motivated. What would your advice be for people wanting to stand up to that movement, as many of our members do?
Well, I mean, I'm in no position to advise those Australian people what to do about their politics, but I think racism and xenophobia is a rising issue all across the world. And this fear of the other, which is ridiculous because most of the people are immigrants somewhere or another. I mean, Australia is actually formed with a group of immigrants, and I find it funny that they go in and they close the door behind them. It's that's it. I mean, we have reached our quota and nobody will get in. But I understand the fear of I understand that there's some kind of fear, but what I detest is that some of the right-wing politicians would use that for political gains, will use that as a platform to instigate fear and exaggerate the fear against these people. I think there's a responsibility on the recipient side, and there is a responsibility of the people coming in. I mean, the responsibility of the recipient side is, to be as human as possible and to receive those people who left their country. Nobody leaves their country out of choice. But there's also a responsibility for the people who comes from a different culture in order to integrate themselves and not to come here and live in ghettos. And I think both sides should work together on this. The best way to do it is to point out the nonsense in that kind of discussion of the fear of the other, and to talk to the human side of people. Everybody, even the most fascist person, except politicians, they have a human side that you can talk to. And there you can always reason with that part, and in order to tell them that what you've been told, what you've been fed through the media and propaganda is not true, and there's so many holes and loopholes to that, and there's always a different kind of opinion. And this is if there's I'm allowed to give the advice, this is what they should do.
Great. Well, thank you for that advice.
Oh, thank you.